My name is Jelle Martens, and I sit on the board of Workplace Pride, and I will be hosting today's webinar. My husband and I are fathers to our 9-year-old and 7-year-old, which we raised together with their 2 mothers as equal co-parents. And to already dive a bit into the subject of today, I am the full legal parent of our son, and I am nothing in relation to our daughter. The first introduction will be given by Sara Coster. She sits on the board of 10.February, which is the Dutch Rainbow Family organization, and she co-parents her 2 sons together with a gay couple. And she will give us an insight into various possible compositions of rainbow families and address some of the practical and employment law issues these kind of families run into. Second presentation will be of, yes, there she comes. Karin raises their child together with her wife, and Karin will share a personal story on becoming a parent and how her employer ING supported her family in doing that. The third presentation will be of Bianca Busser. Bianca is a compensation and benefits manager of Workplace Pride member HEMA. HEMA is a major international retail chain with Dutch origins for all those who are not Dutch and haven't visited HEMA yet. And Bianca will tell us about HEMA's considerations and the actions HEMA has implemented recently in improving employment conditions such that also rainbow families can benefit from them equally. After all these presentations, I will probably come back and share a few thoughts before we then have time to address your questions. Now, let's please listen to the presentation of Sara Coster.
Thank you, Jelle, for inviting and introducing me. Many companies want to be inclusive, but many companies don't know how to deal with different or modern family types. This concerns not only rainbow families, but all modern family compositions. The relevant question is, when is your child, and when is your parent officially your parent? The factual situation can be different than the legal situation. Now parents in these families get no leave of absence or less than they should have, or just based on leniency. In this presentation, I use the terms mother and father. It should be more inclusive, but it's complex enough, so that's why we had to choose to do it this way. I'm sorry. I'm speaking on behalf of Meer dan gewenst, difficult to pronounce for people not from the Netherlands. It means more than wished for. We are an NGO, we are the Dutch Rainbow Families Foundation. We give information, we lobby, we organize activities for rainbow families or people who want to have a rainbow family. We only work with volunteers and we have no governmental funding. Who am I? I'm Sara Coster, and in a nutshell, I'm board member of this foundation. I'm a coach counselor at work, so not as a volunteer. I volunteer for 10.February, but my work is to be a coach counselor for those who want to become a parent or have a rainbow family already. I'm single and straight. I'm very sorry. I'm coming out of the closet here. I'm straight. And I co-parent with a gay couple. My sons are 13 and 15, and they're with their fathers now, so I can give this presentation without being disturbed, and I have the whole bandwidth for me myself. I wrote a book about my story and our family. It's called The Wish and the Fathers, and I also work as a trainer to tell professionals more about modern families. And here you see my family. I hope you can see my mouse. This is father Luca. He's the father of Lorenzo, biologically and legal, and he is the father of this son. So this father, the Italian father, he's from Italy, is no family of his first son, Lorenzo. So it means he didn't get any leave of absence. This child is just not a family member of his. Also, his parents, the grandparents, are not the official grandparents. Here an example of surrogacy. I want to introduce you to Dennis, Lodi, and Sky. They have a Dutch surrogate. They found it after a few years, and they needed an Excel. They went to Canada because they wanted to have an identifiable Excel donor. That costs a lot of money, so it took them years of crowdfunding. So after years and years, they finally became daddies. But they had no right for birth leave. One father had 2 days and the other father had nothing. They had no money left for paid absence, for paid leave, so baby Sky had to go to daycare after her fifth week. Nobody wants this. The child needs time to bond with the parents, and the parents want to take care of the child. And the same thing is, for instance, for a woman who, for example, first went through 10 years of medical misery to become pregnant, finally becomes a mother because a surrogate helped her, and she also has no rights for birth leave or any right, because she, in the beginning, isn't family yet. That takes, for her in that situation, can take a year. Any family construction is different. There are different agreements within the family. And all these arrangements, they have to do with either legal parenthood or with the address where the child is registered. And they are all loving, factual parents that want to take care of their children. And the children, they need to be loved, they need care and attention, and they need time to bond with all the factual parents. I will first give you some information. I explain you a bit more about the different family compositions and about the legal situation, legal parenthood and custody. I'll give you then some examples of the different family compositions and then tell you more about the leave arrangements. And I tell you a bit more about formulations and forms. There's a lot of diversity in parents and family formations. You have male couples, female couples, singles, straight couples, trans persons, polyamorous families. And the constructions you can think about, people have a donor through a clinic or a donor through their own network. You have intentional planned co-parenting, for instance, a single woman like I am with a gay couple, or a lesbian couple with a gay couple, so the child can have more than two parents. And you have surrogacy, adoption, and foster care. The problem I'm talking about today is not only LGBT families, it's mostly LGBT families, but all modern family types can have problems. It's due to the fact when the factual parent isn't a legal parent or is not yet the legal parent, then they don't have rights on these leave arrangements. And some arrangements are based on if the child is registered at your house. But with this co-parent situation, it can be that that's the other house. Well, I want to introduce you to Freddy. When he grows up, his name is Alfred, but as a baby, he's called Freddy. What's legal parenthood and what's custody? Well, here we have Freddy. He has two legal parents and two parents have custody. That's the maximum, two legal parents. So he can't have more than two. It's forever. So also when Freddy becomes Alfred, he still has these two legal parents, or one, but not three. And it's relevant for things like inheritance, nationality, family name, financial support obligation, but also the leave rights. And officially, if you're not the legal parent of Freddy, you're not family from Freddy, and he's not your family. So also if Alfred works at your company and you're not a legal parent, he gets no leave of absence if he has to go to your wedding or your funeral. Also custody, no more than two people, but that's until the 18th birthday. The leave rights have nothing to do with custody, but I just wanted to tell you the complete story. And custody is regarding decisions you can make for the child, so education, medical care, and you have a duty of educating and providing care. In the Netherlands, the birth mother has both. When the child comes out of your body, you're the legal parent and you have custody. And how do you become a legal parent in the Netherlands? Well, as I just said, by giving birth or by being married to the birth mother, to recognize the child, or partner adoption or adoption. There are more ways, more options how to become a legal parent, but that's not interesting for now. But in these family constructions I was talking about, not every factual parent is a legal parent. Two examples, multi-parenthood. A child can only have two legal parents. So one or two of this multi-parent family are no family of the child. And with surrogacy, one intended parent, usually after the child was born, sometimes before, becomes the legal parent through recognition, and the other parent can adopt, but that can take a year. So this first year, there's no right for anything. The regulations we're talking about, some of them are by law and some of them come from special employment conditions within your company. Birth leave, care leave, parental leave, and all kinds of other leave arrangements. And you can't have these when you're not a legal parent. Examples per family type, you have the factual parents. I will tell you more about the factual situation, the legal situation, and then I took 2 examples, birth leave and parental leave. And there's much more to tell, but this is just an introduction. So I will go through all the family constructions and tell you about birth leave and parental leave. What's birth leave in the Netherlands? Well, you get 1 week and you get paid full, and then you can choose to have 5 weeks additional birth leave, and it's 70% of your wage. When you're entitled to have this birth leave, well, if your partner has given birth, or if you're married to the birth mother, if you recognize the child, or if you are the legal parent, or if you live together with the person who gave birth. So normally the birth mother gets 10 to 12 weeks and the partner can have 6 weeks, this birth leave. The parenting leave, you have to be the legal parent of your child, or the child has to be registered at your address. And sometimes there are some additional arrangements through special employment conditions. Well, I'm going to the examples. Here I start with the family type donor through the clinic. A female couple with a donor through a clinic. You see the semen, and one of the women is pregnant, and they decided that the other woman also gets legal parenthood. So they both have the blue thing, which means they both are the legal parents. This is a normal family for the constructions, for the arrangements we're talking about, provided that the non-biological mother also is a legal parent. So they get leave of absence for the birth and parental leave. The next family type is intentional planned co-parenting. Well, that's a very Dutch thing, but I will tell you more about it. Then they share the responsibility for raising the child. So they take all the decisions together and they act like one family in 2 houses. And this child can have 2 parents or 3 or 4. And if it's 3 or 4, we talk about plurality of parents. So 2 parents can be the legal parents, that's the birth mother who gave birth to the child, and one other which they choose. And you can't compare this family with a divorced family because it's intended planned co-parenting. They're one family, but they can't have 4 legal parents. So in example 1, of course, the birth mother is the legal mother, and one of the fathers also is legal father, and here both women are the legal parents. This is just a decision they made within their family. If you think, are the kids all right? Yeah, they're 2 secure bases, that's fine for children. The kids are all right. Well, the traditional family gets 12 weeks, let's say 12 weeks plus 6 is 18 weeks. And this family, I want to introduce you to 2 fathers, 2 mothers, and 2 children. If they have example 1, then one of the fathers is a legal parent. So in this case, the mother is the second mother is not a legal parent, but she gets 6 weeks birth leave because she lives together with the person who gave birth. Father 1 is a legal parent, he gets 6 weeks. But father 2 gets nothing because he isn't the legal parent and he doesn't live together with the birth mother. And we are lobbying to give everybody 6 weeks, which you can take in the first period. So not that the first 6 weeks everybody is on top of the birth mother and the baby, but that you can spread it so that the child has the time to bond with all the parents. Here, in example 2, the 2 mothers are the legal parents. And now both fathers don't have any, I'm going back to the last slide. I've forgotten to tell more here. The parental leave, the first 3 people get parental leave, but this father doesn't get parental leave because the child is registered at the mother's house. In this case, it's even worse because the mothers are the legal parents, so the fathers don't get any birth leave and also no parental leave. So we want the birth leave for 6 weeks for every parent and the parental leave the same as in a traditional family. Co-parenting. A female couple with a single man. They decided to have the legal parenthood with the 2 mothers. The father is officially no family of his child and vice versa. So the father has no right for birth leave, no right for parental leave, but also the child, if the child grows up, the child, Alfred, is not a family member of his own father. So he doesn't get any leave for special things like marriage or funeral. So here is this family, 2 women and the father and 2 children. And the second mother is legal parent. She gets birth leave, she gets parental leave, but the father, who takes care of the children, half of the week, he is a father, he gets nothing. And then the situation with 1 woman and 2 men, like my situation, normally, of course, the birth mother is the legal parent, and then one of the 2, sometimes the biological father, you can also choose for the other one, that doesn't matter, is a legal parent too. And then you get a strange situation that, of course, the first father gets birth leave, the other father gets nothing, the first father gets parental leave, the other father gets nothing. But this is Nina. And if Nina gets a boyfriend and he moves in with her, then he has rights for parental leave because he lives together. He is addressed at the same address as, he's registered at the same address as the children. And father too has no rights at all. Then you have the surrogate. She carries for a male or a straight couple, and that's 3 phases. Phase 1, the surrogate mother and her partner are the legal parents because he is married to the surrogate. They are the legal parents. In phase 2, his rights go to the father, and phase 3, which can take over a year, then the factual parents are the legal parents. So in this case, you see that the partner of the surrogate gets 6 weeks because he lives together with the birth mother. And the fathers in phase 1, or the mother and the father, get nothing. And in phase 2, the father gets 6 weeks. And in phase 3, finally, the mother has rights. But of course, that takes so long that there's no birth leave at all anymore. And the parental leave is for the first period, also with the wrong people. So it might take a year before the mother or the second father finally gets parental leave. That's not what you want. Retirement, that's not included in this presentation, but also in retirement arrangements, the questions who is your parent and who is your child are extremely important. Formulations and forms. Very short, normally this is a presentation of 1.5 hours, but ask open questions, ask how they name it. For example, a lesbian couple who wants, who has a donor, ask them how they call it. Maybe they call it a father or a donor, but it's not up to you to say that. Let them tell it. And I always use my hands, be open, like, tell me. The difference between questions, you have to ask necessary question for professional reasons. You can ask questions out of appropriate curiosity, and show that. or questions out of inappropriate curiosity, like how did you make the baby? I'm not joking. People ask all the time how the insemination went. And also you might have all kinds of forms in your company, man, woman, father, mother. Change that to partner, person, parent, and also the forms with two sections, father and mother. Change them to parents, caregiver 1, 2, 3, 4. These are just examples. What can you do? Despite the legal situation, take care of the modern families, be a good employer. Treat the factual parents as legal parents. Give children the chance to bond with all their factual parents. Treat factual children as legal children. You can ask for legal agreements. They have things done at a lawyer. It's customization. These family constructions are so specific. Think about retirement. Look at your formulations and forms, and maybe provide training for your HRM employees. Go to the human perspective. Factual parents must be able to take care of the child.
Thanks.
I want to thank you for your attention, and I want to thank Workplace Part for organizing this event.
Thanks, Sarah. That was very interesting. We'll quickly move to Karin, if I may ask you to join.
So hi everyone. I wanted to share with you my personal story about starting a family as two women. So I live together with my girlfriend and our 6-month-old son. We started the journey of thinking of how we wanted to start this family about 1 year before I got pregnant. And there were 3 things that were important for us in this choice. We really wanted to know how a potential donor looked like as an adult, so not only as a child or a baby. We wanted our child to be able to meet the donor at least once. And also we wanted to have some information about the donor, about interest or hobbies or personality, to also, so that we would be able to tell something more about the donor. We explored, in this 1 year, we explored several options. We went to websites in the Netherlands. There's a website where people who are looking for a donor and people who offer themselves as donor can meet. This option didn't work out for us. It wasn't good for us. We talked to people or to men in our own network to see if maybe we have the same idea. And in the end, we noticed that men were also afraid sometimes to get too attached to a child, or also partners who are not always comfortable. And meanwhile, we were also looking at a large donor bank who offered donors with an adult photo, and it's also possible, or the child has the legal right to meet the donor. And there's always also quite some information. And after a while, there was a donor that that we both liked, and then things moved pretty quickly. So I think relating to Sarah's story, that's donor through a clinic. So everything went well, and of course, our son is now here. My employer, ING, has always been very supportive. Always been very supportive. When they heard I was pregnant, they were as happy for me as any other colleague. So in general, people and colleagues at ING, they're very open-minded. So it's all very normal. And ING as an employer is also supportive to, in my view, to all families. And so me as the birth mother, of course, I have the legal right to get the birth leave anyway. And my partner, ING is offering for partners a special partner leave, so 6 weeks. ING offers a paid partner leave of 6 weeks, but of course that's for the partner who's the registered partner. I don't know the exact rules for special cases like the other cases that Sarah mentioned, in which the parent is not the legal parent. But I do know that ING is always open for talks about it. So I had some good experience. I had a good experience with that. And maybe some funny things we noticed as being a mom when walking outside together. Yeah, of course, people always think a woman with the child is the mother. So there are often questions like, oh, who's the mother? When my girlfriend was walking outside with our son when he was just born, people were saying like, oh, wow, you already look fit. But of course, she didn't give birth. And we noticed, sometimes when people do get to know, like, oh, you're a partner and you got a son, they ask like, oh, who's the mother? And I think it's just says like in the community there's maybe still father, mother. It's really the standard view. So people don't mean it wrongly, but of course, it sometimes sounds a bit weird because we're both the mother, and that's how it really feels for us. So that was a short story.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that and giving a bit of insight, Karin, on how supportive ING is for its employees as regards parenting. It would be interesting also to understand how other companies deal with that. So, Bianca, if I may ask you to join the stage and tell us a bit on the decisions that HEMA made recently.
I would most certainly do. At HEMA, we think HEMA is for everyone. That counts for our customers, but of course also for our employees. And in not last year, but the year before, when we had an official Pride campaign, we had birth festivity for children born in a modern family. And then we asked ourselves, yes, but what can we do to really make every parent the same and give them the same legal rights? Because we thought that was very important to us and our employees. So I got in contact with Sara from Meer dan Gewenst to overthink what were the difference in between all families, as she explained earlier on. And after some investigations and some talks with other companies, we decided that the design principle should be what's best for the child. So we thought about an arrangement in which the child is the center and every child deserves the same kind of care and the same time of bonding. So then we found out that people where the mother giving birth is not part of the family will always have less forms of leave than a family where the mother giving birth is part of the family. So we decided very quickly that there would be an additional leave for families where the mother giving birth is not part of the family. And that meant that a birth-giving mother has at least 10 weeks of leave staying with the child, that a second parent or a first parent in a family where their mother is not part of the family should get at least the 6 weeks, which if he would be the legal partner, or if he adopt the child or intends to adopt the child, would get 4 extra weeks. So in every family, even if it's two families who are cooperating to raise the child, would get 10 weeks to stay with the baby. Well, when we invented this idea, it went very quickly because the board as well as the Works Council were very okay with it. And from the HEMA thought, everybody counts. This was actually something we should have done maybe years ago. So within a few weeks, we got all decisions right. And also in implementation, we thought, how can we do this? Because everybody thought of a lot of difficulties in this situation. But we thought in the Netherlands, we have something like special leave, which you give when somebody gets a wedding or needs to go to a funeral of his parents. We could use this kind of leave to grant 4 weeks of extra leave for these parents. We made a proper policy, and we found out that such a policy does not always get all the situations right. So we decided with each other, when there is a situation of parenthood which is not really described in this policy, we will customize the leave form. So if the adoption is not yet ready, maybe we can put the adoption weeks before the real legal parenthood will start, so that eventually every parent has at least, or every family, there's at least one parent who can stay 10 weeks with the child. And that also, of course, counts for the situation Sara pronounced, when there is a mother who's not able to give birth herself to her child and will get a surrogacy to get a family as well. So that's how we arranged things at HEMA.
Thanks. Thank you, Bianca. That was very inspiring stories, everybody. At least I thought it was very inspiring. In preparing this webinar, but frankly also in my professional role as a lawyer in a pan-European company, it's become pretty apparent that specific rules apply in specific countries. And it's difficult, very difficult to have a general rule that would cover all countries internationally. Much simpler, however, is the question regarding the policy, and the policy of how do I want to treat my LGBTIQ plus employees, like Bianca just referred to, and how can I do that as an employer? And I really found Bianca's story of, well, let's just start and fix it if it's not coded, very inspiring. Another thought that people may have, especially the employers joining this webinar, relates to cost. How much is this going to cost me as an employer? And my personal thinking is, if you employ someone in the age bracket of 18 to 40 or something, chances are that they will want to become a parent. So you already more or less factor that into the payroll. And then not wanting to address the gender gap pay issue, which is a different subject, it shouldn't really matter if it's a man or a woman who becomes a parent. In fact, it shouldn't, as Bianca said, make a difference if these parents are legal parents or biologically connected to the child. And where lawmakers still struggle with the question how to deal with all these modern family forms, I think it's a lot easier for employees. Please use HEMA's practical approach as your goal, I would think. Lastly, maybe, although it was addressed a bit in this webinar already, a lot has been said about parents and parents as employees of an employer in this webinar. And given the crowd of participants, that's very understandable. But let's not forget about why we think these parents should have equal rights. These parents should have equal rights because of the children. Children, at the end of the day, don't get to decide which family they're born into. But children do have rights. They have the right to bond with their family. They have a right to be family of their family. And not only a loving family relation, but a family relation in which they have the same legal rights towards their parents as children in any John and Mary straight family.
So first of all, David from Amsterdam says, fantastic, fascinating topic, but quite a minefield. And he'd be interested to hear how rainbow families function in countries other than the Netherlands. So if you have any insights into the international situation, please.
Sarah, I can say something, or maybe you know a bit through NELFA.
No, you can say something.
Okay, I know I used to be involved in Meerdergewenst also. Meerdergewenst is a member of NELFA, which is an international, basically umbrella organization of rainbow family organizations. You see rainbow families factually living in many countries. I incidentally read an article in a newspaper of a Dutch diplomat who lives in China with his husband and 3 children, where he said that he actually also had to go back in the closet a bit. I know if you follow the news a bit, especially the relevant Facebook pages of NELFA members, for example, there's developments in Switzerland, there's developments in Luxembourg, and sometimes it's very difficult for these rainbow families that do exist in all countries to have the legal rights to their children. A recent issue in Luxembourg was of a lesbian couple who had a child that was born in Romania that is officially stateless right now because Romania doesn't recognize their relationship. So rainbow families exist in all countries, but they face difficulties in every country.
Okay, on to the next question. This is these questions are open to everybody in the panel if you have something relevant. So the next question is is from Stephen, who mentions that he heard the term common donor example, but only considered a female couple with a male sperm donor. So can you explain how it would work for a male couple with a surrogate mother? So I think that's Sarah, please.
Yeah, that was one of the examples. In the picture, it was a surrogate mother with a heterosexual couple, but it's the same for a male couple. One of the men will become a father somewhere in the beginning, and the other one can take over a year under Dutch law. So there are trouble too, but it's the same for a male couple who wants a child with the help of a surrogate as for a heterosexual couple. I saw a lot of people, by the way, saying, well, you better say a parent instead of mother. In the introduction, in the beginning, I explained why it was very difficult to fit this in 15 minutes to do it gender neutral, but there are some slides I actually can change mother into birth parent. Thanks for the advice. And I'm sorry for being not as inclusive as I would want to be.
And I think what, if I may add to that, an added complexity in surrogacy is that often you see that the surrogate prefers to carry a child that is not biologically hers, in the sense that also an egg cell donor is required. So she wants to assist carrying a child, but then a child that's conceived of a donated egg cell with often a sperm cell of the intended parent.
And if I may add, if we look at it, how we at HEMA arranged such a situation when two male parents are involved, and one of the parents, doesn't matter if it's the biological or the one who gets legal or custody at first, if one of the fathers is working at our company, he can apply for the 4 weeks of extra special birth leave, as we call it.
Fantastic. Mike.
Okay, apologies for that.
Yeah, no worries.
Next on to Gunjan, who says, interesting scenarios on birth parents. What happens when there is intentional co-parenting with adopted children? How many parents are legal? And then the person says, P.S. This helps trans people to talk about birth parent and donor parent as terms rather than birth mother and father. So coming back to the previous comment with Sarah. So what happens when there's intentional co-parenting with adopted children, or how many parents are legal? That's the question.
Yeah, you can't have more than 2 legal parents. And I actually don't know international co-parenting where they didn't get biological children, but then they adopted children in intentional co-parenting. But of course that can exist. But again, a child can just have 2 legal parents. So if there are more parents involved, then there are 1 or 2 without rights.
Yeah, and maybe also to add to that, adoption is used for 2 different scenarios. Scenario 1 is where a child somewhere in the world is born and their parent or parents cannot take care of them anymore. And that child is then given up for adoption. Now, in the Netherlands, all of a sudden there's a ban, at least temporary, on international adoption, which may make sense. The general principle of scenario 1 adoption is that children are preferably adopted within their own environment. So that's scenario 1. Scenario 2 is the partner adoption. So that's the situation where there is one legal parent and the other parent or other person that also wants to become a parent cannot do that through recognition or being married. then there's an option to have a partner adoption. That's a different sort of adoption. I thought it good to emphasize the difference between the two.
What would be the leading countries in development of suitable law for all cases presented today, i.e. change of traditional male-female system to a high degree of flexibility? Where are the leading countries pushing the boundaries for these improvements?
Well, I think the Netherlands, we had a statute committee about 4 years ago. They presented a report with 68 recommendations how to change the law so that every child in a family is treated in the right way, protected in the right way. And the main topics were surrogacy and multi-parenthood. And they're still talking about making it a law, but it takes a while. And surrogacy is really going on now, so maybe that will be a law somewhere in the coming period. And for multi-parenthood, I hope for the new, after elections, I hope it goes better. But I think we are quite far concerning if you compare us to other countries. Maybe Jelle wants to add something.
No, not really. I think I know for a fact that Meerder Gewenst has been lobbying in Parliament for a very long time. And it's a bit unfortunate that because of the current composition of government, it's just too difficult to get that advice coded into the law. But I'm sure it's going to happen one day. And also again that that proposal has its limitations, because I know there are families with 5 parents, for example, whereas the current restrictions in the current proposals is a maximum of 4 parents.
Next question is from Diedrich. Great to hear all the experience. Focus often remains on the legal aspects, and at the start, this person would be interested in best practices or sharing experiences in the different phases of the child's life, like elementary school years, puberty, etc. Are there areas suggested to go to get knowledge about this?
So then you're not talking about arrangements within the company, but how does it work for this family, and is it okay for the child, you mean? Yeah, there's a lot of research done, and they're still doing a lot of research. And for instance, Henny Bos from the University of Amsterdam, she does a lot of research together with Susan Golombok and they did research. For instance, for 25 years, they followed children who were born in a female family through the help of a donor. And the main what comes out of all this research is the kids are all right. If you compare them with children who are raised in comparable families, it's the same. And if there's a small difference, then it is that they're psychologically a bit stronger. And yeah, that's the only difference. And there was also research that children being raised by two men were happier. But so no research shows things which are things to concern about, which is good news.
Yeah, and maybe also in addition to that, Diederik, it's a very interesting question. From my personal experience, I can tell that up to the moment our oldest was born, I was very much a gay father. But as from the moment our son was born, I was a father. Because the issues that your child has is the same as any child and any parent becoming a parent.
Okay, next question is from Nicoletta. She says she understands there's no difference between men and women when we talk about the costs, but what if the parents are 4 instead of the standard 2?
If I may, from the perspective of an employer, it is no different. Of course, when there is a mother giving birth, all the costs will be taken by government. But for us, it's no issue if there are 4 parents or 2 parents, because eventually, mostly one parent will work at HEMA. So there's no difference, and we think the costs are of any importance if you can see what you can do for the family to give 4 weeks extra leave to stay with your child.
Is there any movement to reduce or remove gendered language when talking about parentage? Not all people can who give birth are women. Parents can be non-binary, etc. So is there any kind of movement? Maybe this is to Sarah. She can take the lead.
Yeah, that goes very slow. Also, all the forms with mother and father and he and she, that goes very slow. There's a lot of work to be done there. Yeah, and also not only in companies, also schools and medical forms. It's all mother, father instead of parents, parent one, parent two, or caretaker. I mean, there's so many different family types. It should be done better. Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done.
And Sarah and I had a conversation about this yesterday, as a matter of fact, on which language can we use to make it more inclusive. At the end of the day, if you want to conceive a child, you need an egg donor, or you need an egg cell, you need a sperm cell, and these need to grow in someone's womb. By law, the person who carries the child and gives birth is a mother. It's not a parent. Maybe that's also something that can be picked up in modern or in improving legislation. But by law, that person is called a mother, irrespective of the gender that person qualifies or identifies with.
Okay, thank you. On to the next question from Stephen. He was wondering if there's any publicly available HEMA case studies that could be accessed. As someone not in HR, he says, he'd like to approach Works Council and LGBT ERGs to work with them to consider changes at his company. And he feels HEMA's approach is very reasonable. So, Bianca, could you speak to that?
We just talked about the subject and talked about why we thought, from an HR perspective, this would be a reasonable suggestion to have equal rights to every family and mostly to every child. And actually, yeah, that's maybe strange, but for us, that's so normal at HEMA that everybody is equal that there wasn't really a discussion, so it went very easily. And I think to be open and just talk what should be reasonable for everybody should make the start. And if there are difficulties, then maybe you could more explore why there are hesitations on that, because I think everybody should promote equality for all people.
And I think Bianca, because I think that may have been sort of like the implicit request. I think if some form of a PowerPoint or a list of points or something could be made available, I'm sure that HEMA and Workplace Pride can join forces in making that available through Workplace Pride.
Yes, I most certainly want to provide something like that, how we process this.
Super, Mike. Do we have another question maybe, Mike?
Florentina says or asks, would it be possible for Workplace Pride or the panel themselves, if they have advice on providing guidelines to consider when a company decides to tackle rainbow families' inclusivity? Florentina is based in the UK and has quite a lot to consider when looking at her company policies. But she and the company definitely want to do what's right for everyone. So maybe can we talk about that?
Yeah, I think we can, from HEMA, can help in that with Workplace Pride. I have a colleague who is actually living in the UK and worked in the UK, who knows a lot about, because he's an HR specialist as well, knows a lot about the legal things over there. So I can ask her to look from the UK perspective as well.
Gunjan states, family is not always just parents and children. Chosen family is important for LGBTIQ plus people, especially if they are not accepted by their family of origin. Also, asexual/romantic people may not have legal partners, but need leave for friends and chosen families. Any companies accounting for that?
Yeah, that I wouldn't know, in all fairness. I think this webinar was mostly intended to inform you about development for rainbow families that want to become a parent. But I very much, Gunji, understand your question. I just don't know the answer. I'm happy to explore that further with you. If you could please contact me through Workplace Pride.
Guillaume says the Netherlands is ahead of many countries when it comes to inclusion of diverse family models. one of the key challenges for multinational companies headquartered in the Netherlands like HEMA or ING is to give guidance and spread best practices in other EU countries where they operate, where there may be different legal frameworks. So could the panel speak to that, please?
Yes, I thought Karin was going to say something, so I was waiting.
Karin, yeah.
Of course, we started this special birth leave in the Netherlands last summer, very occupied with, for example, the corona crisis, and did not make it as far as to internationalize this arrangement. But we most certainly will explore what the possibilities are and want to get this arrangement for all the countries which are HEMA, part of HEMA is working.
Yeah, and for ING, we have a global we have a global and diversity department, which is spreading the word about diversity and inclusion for everything. So not only for gays, but also inclusion of women, of different nationalities, disabled people. So ING is by that trying to spread it out over every country, but still it's for every country, they have their own HR rules. That's the status.
So this is from Joanna, and she asks, do you know if ING is recognizing employees in other ING countries, for example, Poland or Romania, as same-sex parents and giving both of them leave? Joanna says a few years back, such a HR project was started by ING, and they're wondering if that was implemented.
Yeah, I must honestly say that I don't know. I know that I only know the rules for the Dutch, for our own country, and I don't know the specific rules for other countries, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, great. These were, I can just see, I actually just clicked open the question section, and I saw that there were many more. And I think together with Bianca, Sara, and Karin would be most interested in addressing all your questions. So if you have any further questions, please just send them to the info@workplacepride.org email address, and we'll be most happy to send them. Also, the questions and the chat will be saved, and we will have access to them. So where we can, we will answer questions to participants directly. I think that's all for the webinar. Thank you very much for your attendance and wish you a fantastic day. Au
Thanks
revoir.
all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.